Hello everybody, and welcome to a brand new season of Face It and Fix It. I'm Joanne Haigh, looking forward to this new year, 2022, and another opportunity to be of assistance to you. We welcome our viewers and listeners in Barbados and around the world to Face It and Fix It on CBC TV 8, CBC Barbados Facebook and YouTube, and of course, our listeners, Q100.7 FM radio. Now, before I get started, I wanted to share a few personal observations. I first want to start with the war in Ukraine and Russia, and I just think that Barbadians may believe it is not their concern, but it really is, because it certainly can have a serious impact to us, a small nation, and I want to wish them peace, not only the people in Ukraine, but for those people in Russia who are actually against this war. I'm hoping for a speedy resolution. So bringing it right back home to Barbados, I don't know if you have seen the Bourne Highway recently, the benches at Codrington College, but they are in a pretty bad state. I do believe we have some footage that we are going to show you, and that we may be able to show you shortly, but we will be looking at the condition of those roads surfaces on the Bourne Highway. And you do know that we do have a project coming up. The government just announced a lot of roadwork projects coming up in the pipelines, and we look forward to those repairs and government fixing the roads. And we are now looking at the road that we are speaking of. To those of you listening, you might not be able to see it, but I urge you to take a trip on the Bourne Highway and the benches at Codrington College. We're looking hopefully for them to be repaired sooner rather than later. But as I said earlier, there are a number of capital works projects that are set to be started under the Ministry of Transport and Works. And I'm not sure the start date, but I do believe that that road will be included in the fixing of much needed fixes, I should say, on some of the roads in Barbados. So, of course, we know that this show is all about what we can do to help you. We bring agencies to speak on the issues that bother you the most. It's a new year, 2022. We've got some problems that have not been fixed in 2021 or 2020, and that we do know that we need to work on. So we want you to give us a call and share your concerns. This show is about you facing problems with us and asking agencies who are responsible to fix them. Today, we are going to be talking about transportation, public transport specifically. And joining us today will be the Alliance Owners of Public Transport via video chat. We welcome Mr. RAPHAEL, the chairman of the Alliance, AOPT, and attorney at law, Mr. Craig Banfield. Craig is a friend of mine, and he's the Director of Complaints and Legal Affairs with the studio. And Mr. Mark Haynes, Communications, Information and Marketing Officer of the AOPT, will also be joining us in studio. We expect to have a frank and lively discussion. We have major problems in this industry, transportation. I know every Barbadian has encountered a problem with possibly a PSV, even if you were a pedestrian, a commuter, or even a motorist. So I urge you to please call us. As always, our phone lines are open to hear from you, your concerns, and we welcome you to kindly call us on 228-5562 or 228-5563, or send us a WhatsApp on 228-5562. If you're joining us on social media, type in CBC Barbados. You're going to find us there, and you can leave your comments, and we certainly will share them with the public. When we come back, we will be speaking to the Alliance of Public Transportation. Back to Face It and Fix It. We are speaking transportation today. We are talking about the PSVs. We're specifically looking at the minibuses and the ZRs. We're not talking about the transport board buses, not as yet, but today we're going to focus on these vehicles. Now, to be honest with you, I am not a big fan of the behavior that I see, but I also recognize that not every person who owns a minibus or a ZR or driver would break the rules. But unfortunately, as we know, the few will cause confusion and a bad name for many. But the problems have been ongoing. I remember sitting on another show, Brass Tacks, as a moderator, and we were constantly discussing, and we're still seeing a lot of bad behavior. We've had several accidents in the last 2 weeks. I remember seeing one with mass casualties, another one with a ZR flipping over, hitting another one, and it seems to be always, or should I say most of the time, the accidents involve the public service vehicles. I also saw a video the other day, I believe it was in town, where another minibus was parked across the street. So here's the minibus coming down the regular road driving, and he's parked crossway to block him, and all of a sudden a fight then breaks out, all captured on video. Now the association, I must say, I must commend, because we'll be speaking to them right now. Mr. Roy RAPHAEL unfortunately will not be with us on video, but he will be with us via phone. And Craig Banfield will be joining us, and Mark Haynes, Communications Information Marketing Officer. And we're going to give these gentlemen an opportunity to discuss with us, you the public, what is happening. Tell us about the Alliance first, and how are we going to fix these problems with the PSVs on the streets? Because we do understand that you need to make money, and we understand that you have your livelihood, but I believe lives are a little bit more important, and saving lives are a little bit more important. Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to Face It and Fix It.
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. All right.
Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes,
Good morning.
Good morning. So, Mr. Chair, Mr. Roy RAPHAEL, we'll start with you first. Tell us a little bit about the Alliance. When was it set up, and what is the purpose of the Alliance, the organization?
All right. Thank you very much for inviting us on this morning program, the first for the year. The Alliance Owners of Public Transport started in 2010, and the purpose of the organization basically was formed to represent all public service vehicle owners, which includes ZRs, minibuses, taxis, hire cars. So once you own a public service vehicle, then you are invited to join our association. Our association have an 11-person committee, which is comprised of a number of heads that have responsibilities. For example, I am the chairman of the Alliance, and I have responsibility for Bridgetown taxis and taxis generally. Well, you have Mr. Mark Griffith, R. Griffith. He is vice deputy, and he has responsibility for education. You also have Rosalind Mears, she's the secretary. Sandrine Warren, she's the treasurer. You have Keith Wilkinson, he is a director. You also have Mr. Mark Haynes, who's the Communication Information Marketing Officer, and he also has special assignment to the regional transport body, because we also are members of the regional transportation body, in which he is the special assignment officer, and today Barbados holds the chair, and we are the chair of the regional transport, which is comprised of over 12 countries, including Guyana, St. Lucia, Dominica, and Grenada, Trinidad, etc. We also have Craig Banfield, who have responsibility for complaints and the PSB Give Back program. We have Mark Lane, who is responsible for TAP. You have Kevin Scott, he has responsibility for government affairs. You have Shadia Simpson, she's an attorney at law. And shortly, we will be appointing a transport public advisor. And that person will be named very shortly. and that person will have responsibility to mitigate between us and government officials, because obviously, for a while now, we have been calling for dialogue and discussions with various ministries of departments as relate to transport, education, culture, whatever you name it, we can fit in. So we have asked our public advisor, transport public advisor, basically to discuss issues related to public transport and assist our department from moving from one stage to the next. So we are generally satisfied that this organization has done well within the last number of years. Our complaints department continue to be the flagship. I will allow the complaints officer to speak to that more. But I can say that we have seen a significant number of complaints drop within the last years that we have been informed. And I will, within my discussion further, I will set out some initiatives with the public that we are going to be going forward with within this year. We have already started with our PSP Give Back program. As you recognize that we have started some work at Eden Lodge where there were a trap that was or what we call a pathway that was blocked for over 30 years. And thanks to CO Williams and our members, we were able to clear it. When the pandemic first started though, in 2000, we were able to assist a number of our commuters with care packages. We offered 25 taxis to the services of the older people who wanted to go to the polyclinic. And we also gave away some $50 vouchers to our members because they were really wanted the additional help, thanks to Rubis, and also to the Light and Power for providing a number of our commuters, our PSP operators out there with hand sanitizers on board. So I'll stop right there, Diane. Thank you.
Okay, so in 2020, you started basically the Give Back program, you would say?
Correct.
Okay, so, and I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. But the public, though, I must say, before we get to that, we want to really highlight, let's talk about the complaints, because as I said earlier, this is going to be a very open discussion. I don't want you to hold anything back. I don't want the public to hold anything back about what they have experienced and some of their ideas going forward. But when you say complaints section, this is complaints from the commuters, the public, or complaints from the owners and the operators of these vehicles?
Okay, so let me say that basically we receive complaints across the board. We get complaints where commuters complain against our PSP operators. And we also get operators who complain that commuters who enter the buses refuse to comply. As such, refuses to comply in the area of refusing to put on their mask when they get into the vehicle. Some of them refuse to pay. And we had an incident where a PSP vehicle was thrown at with stones and damaged because basically the driver refused to go to what you call Gamesway because his turnaround point is basically around the airport. So we get these kind of situations where when a commuter wants you to stop at other than a bus stop, we refuse to do so. Then he get his gang into the district, and you know, sometimes we fear for our life. As you know, right now we are trying to assist our former playing Victor Walton. We started a fund for him because he would have found himself in an unfair, not a very good situation. And our association is really trying to provide assistance to the family. So what I'm saying, generally we get complaints across the board, both ways.
Okay, so let's talk about the complaints coming from the public first, and then we want to expand a little bit more the complaints coming from the operators, because of course I know that we've always heard about somebody being robbed, and I often wonder when you're the last person or you're driving the last person and it's 11 o'clock at night and there's like two men, if you know what crosses your mind as an operator. But let's talk about some of the complaints coming from the public. Only this morning, I was a little bit late, and then I guess the guy was not full, so he was what they call dragging. And then of course it goes from one extreme to the other. There's dragging, then there's speeding, Then there's overtaking. Then there's parking in the middle of the road to pick up passengers because you don't want anybody else to pass you. There's breaking some rules, etc. You know, traffic lights and so on and so forth. Now, before we get into all of that, there's some legal aspects to this organization and to the MTW that they have put some legislation in place of what people can and cannot do or shouldn't do. So can we talk about the rules first, and then we'll talk about all of those complaints that I just mentioned one by one and the things that really make people angry. Let's talk about the legal aspect. Who's going to cover that? Craig, seeing that you're the legal affairs person.
Yeah, pleasant good morning to everybody once again. I'm glad to be on your show. I'm glad that you started out your new season with us on board as hopefully the flagship that will bring many more interesting topics to your agenda as time goes by. First and foremost, as it relates to complaints, yes, we have received a lot of complaints on a regular basis in terms of many of what you have just mentioned. And we've heard from lewd music, the reckless driving, to the drinking, dragging, as you mentioned, parking in the middle of the way and blocking roads. And as such, we as an organization, we try to encourage our members to adhere to the rules and regulations and the laws of Barbados. And I'm very glad to say that majority of our members do tend to follow the rules of Barbados and the laws. On the law books, there are things like the dragging and drinking who are on the law books in terms of that they can be charged for violating such offenses. Unfortunately, the police do tend to adhere to those laws as relates in certain instances. When it comes to drinking, for example, we've had a reduction in a lot of the complaints over the period of 2 years or so. The majority of complaints we get is relating to dragging and blocking. Luckily, as you can say, things like drinking and lewd music has decreased somewhat. And even, I think in the law courts, having a radio really on a public service vehicle is not is outlawed. So sometimes when you hear lewd music and stuff, and even music in general, according to the law, you're not supposed to have radios or sets or vans. However,
So Craig, you mean nobody can listen to Face It and Fix It at 10 o'clock in the morning on your van, on your radio?
Unfortunately, yeah. Okay. Unfortunately, no. Mm-hmm. There was challenged a time ago whereby the operator did say, look, we are not putting radios in the van, for example. They come down already standard with radios. We want to listen to the news. We want to hear what's going on. We want to listen to Face It and Fix It. You know, and I think they actually went to court. As such, we are continue to encourage our members to adhere to the rules and regulations, and from there, you know, we are hoping that the general trend will continue. Unfortunately, there are within the system a few what you would say bad apples, and those bad apples are the ones that are really causing trouble or making the sector look very, very bad. As we know, public service vehicle operators, they are a real source of employment, and they contribute significantly to the GDP of Barbados. As such, we want to make sure that those persons who are employed receive the rightful employee benefits, etc., as we go forward as an organization.
Okay.
By extension, we tend to look at what can PSV operators benefit from in terms of, especially from our organization. We tend to try to encourage members to realize that we as an organization have benefits of being a member
of the organization. Craig, I want to just stick a pin right there when we come right back, because we do have to take a quick commercial break, and we want to talk a little bit more about that and expand on it, but we'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We are speaking transportation today. And before the break, we were speaking to Mr. Craig Banfield. Craig is Director of Complaints and Legal Affairs. Craig, before the break, you were talking about the benefits of joining the Alliance and that you have, which I would like to know, how many members actually do you have? I'm not hearing you. Okay, I'm hearing you now. Go ahead.
Yeah. Currently, I think RAPHAEL could correct me, but I think roughly we have between 200 to 250 currently on our books. He can stand corrected for that. But what happens as an organization, we are trying to encourage persons to join more organizations. So Joanne, when I came on board, when they asked me to join the association as a director, I looked at what benefits can I be, or would it be to me to join the association. This is a non-profit organization, and as such, we are not about money. We are about looking to benefit and try to correct a lot of the wrongs that are within the public service sector. It is a very difficult job, I must admit. We have a lot of persons pulling from different angles, and especially not having the regulatory requirements as such, or the powers that we can implement, as we know will make a difference in this industry. It is very, very challenging for us. As such, in order to join our associations, I'm also into insurance too as well. And I think that what has happened recently with Victor Walton, whereby, you know, operators are known to be faced with accidents and robberies. And what the unfortunate situation that happened with Victor Walton, no operator should have to come to the public to ask for funding to bury, you know, any of them. And as such, we are now looking as an organization to look to implement accident and disability insurance income, whereby things like this will not happen. Funeral expenses coverage, pensions, things along these natures that you would tend not to see inside the public service sector. As such, a lot of these public service operators do not pay NAS. And as such, they need to know and realize that when they turn 65, if you don't pay NAS, if there's no NAS, that when they turn 65, at least they'll be able to counter that with the accident and disability income that we are looking to actually implement, and pensions and funeral expense coverage. These are things that should be any person that in any sector should be able to have reliable information to, and also be able to have on board in times of need. So those are a few areas that is a good benefit for joining the association. As such, we also, like Roy had mentioned previously, during the pandemic, we realized that a lot of our operators were not working, and it still needed to be out there. So we approached Rubus, and Rubus was glad to be able to provide us with gas vouchers. Barbados Light and Power gave us sanitizers, hand sanitizers that we put in the vans to ensure that commuters as well as operators will be able to get the benefits of being sanitized on a regular basis. So we are always looking for ways and means that what we can do, besides what I mentioned, there might be some few other ones I didn't mention that the others will pick up on, to try and enhance and encourage members to look, you know what, we're here for you. We're not really here about the overall dollar. It's time to give back. We just went into community lodge, as Roy had mentioned earlier, where we cleared the road after 30 years. And we have a lot more projects, not only in Eden Lodge, but also throughout the entire Barbados, where we get complaints from our hotline from members who are telling us, look, you know what, we need this happen. This is happening. This is affecting us as commuters. And we are all identifying what we need to identify, and we're going to look at how we can go about trying to correct it and make a difference. That is what we really need to do going forward.
Okay, Craig. So I want to hear from Mr. Mark Haynes now. Mark is Communications, Information, and Marketing. And Mark, my first question to you would be, how do we know that the van is a member, the driver, they're the members of the association? How can we identify that vehicle? Do they have stickers? Are they branded? The vehicles.
First of all, good morning, Joanne. Thanks for having me in the program, along with my colleagues, Mr. RAPHAEL and Mr. Banfield. We do not have stickers for face which would identify persons as members of the Alliance of Public Transport, but everything has to do with membership. Persons who come in and physically apply for membership, then they granted membership, and then they automatically become members of the organization. Then we have the honor to represent the workers when they have difficulty and to represent the organization by extension. So we are what we are seeking to encourage, as my colleague Mr. Banfield quite alluded to earlier. I think it's time now we move forward. We are both we are here to fix it and face it. Let's be realistic. We cannot force anybody by law to join an organization. We can only beseech, implore, and encourage persons in the sector to join an organization of their choosing. We cannot say which one. There are two organizations, and you have an opportunity to join either one of your choosing. When you join an organization, that affords you certain privileges, and it also allows you the privilege of representation which you would require. I think we have to move forward now. I think gone are the days where people just are piggybacking on organization or on people. So we have to urge the workers in the sector, and there are many workers, to join an organization of your choosing or of your choice, so that that allows you to be able to be represented when representation is required. We, notwithstanding persons who are members or non-members, we are doing a lot of there in the public domain in an effort to turn around the image of this organization, which has been tarnished, which continues to be tarnished, and we are satisfied that we have done a lot of work to help allay some of these fears that the public would have. Some of the complaints are legitimate, some are not, because everyone who calls and complains about an issue and do not want to come forward, that's a different matter altogether. But we are here to market and sell the organization. We're here to ensure that the workers in the sector behave themselves and conduct themselves to the highest level of decorum. They have to see this as their business. The owner, they cannot say as the owner's business. The workers themselves have got to say it as their business. But I think what is a very significant point, if we may touch on it very for a short moment, the owners have a responsibility to try to gauge those persons whom they are going to employ in the sector. This is an important feature. Yes, although I say this, I have to make the other point. You can speak with people, but you cannot force them to do what they're supposed to do. But if they see this as part of their business, they will conduct themselves with the highest level of decorum and do not bring the organization into public disrepute. The alleged owners of public transport, which I have the honor to represent, I think represents fairly well in the public domain. We are going to continue this process. We are not going to renege on what we are required to do. We have taken, we continue to take all the complaints of the public. Once they are legitimate complaints, we have a complaints department headed by Craig. He takes the complaints, and Craig acts on the complaints. By extension, all 11 of us, all the complaints are brought to our attention. Sometimes we check some of the complaints, some are not legitimate. Sometimes some are legitimate. Those that are legitimate, our remit is to work with the Ministry of Transport and Work, and also to work with the Transport Authority, whose remit it is to deal with these matters from a legalistic perspective. Now, owing to the fact that the Transport Authority is there enshrined in law, it needs more teeth. The regulations are not all fully in place for some of these laws. This is one of the problems that we have found over time, and the new minister has given an undertaking that she intends to go to the parliament and try to have everything regularized. Until this happens, we are not going to see a real turnaround in terms of bad behavior which continues to permeate this sector. There are some persons in the sector whose behavior is unsavory, and we do not condone this. But I think it should not be a question of the law to be applied in every single case. I think I'm going to think outside the box now. We are facing it and we are fixing it. I think in the law, there should be a provision which speaks to the question of counseling, quite apart from training, so that when a worker commits some infraction, you take him from the system, you have him counseled, he goes through the various processes with a view to turning himself around, because I do not believe that that no one is beyond redemption.
But Mark, let me ask you this before you move on. You talk about counseling, but I'm more interested in, before you get the permission to drive a vehicle, there must be some sort of training first that a driver should go through before he gets permission to drive a public service vehicle. Does that happen? Because you talk about counseling, but I want to know what happens before you get these keys to drive this PSV.
Yeah, you have the requisite license, you go and you drive. Yes, we know that is an anomaly. That in itself.
So there's no training?
There's no real training per se. What we are trying to do now, going forward, Diane, we are going forward. We're not going backwards, but we're going forward. Steam ahead. We are trying to get a system which provides for training simultaneous with your license. Or to get your license, you have to undergo the requisite training, which allows you to go on the road because you're moving the nation.
So is that part of the legislation that you speak of that you want to see having teeth? Because we should put these things into law. You should not be able to drive a PSV, operate one, unless you go through training.
It is not currently in the law. We are seeking to have this enshrined in the law. So if it's part of the law, it makes it a prerequisite. It becomes a prerequisite for you to be able to take the traveling public or take the commuters from here to there. I think we have to move past that now. Those in the system, it will not be fair to take them out now because they haven't gone through the requisite training. So
but please let me stop you 1 second. When you said it wouldn't be fair to take them out now, is there maybe a policy that owner has to renew his permit, and if that renewal, can then the existing drivers be incorporated into that regulation?
No.
Okay.
I'm coming to that, Marianne. Very important question you've asked. I commend you for that question because you preempted me. What I'm saying is that, notwithstanding the fact that there's some in the system already who haven't gone through the training, we hope that going forward now, that as they go to renew their license on an annual basis, that training becomes paramount. It is part of the process which allows that operator to be trained. He has to submit that to the authorities that he has gone through the requisite training, thus allowing him in the system. Also, I think it is about time now that government should have it in legislation where these workers should be members of organizations. I am not going to say which organization, but should be members of organizations. So you don't have people just there running about doing as they like, and then having a multiplicity of complaints coming to us that we are trained to fix on a daily basis. So training is paramount. It should be in the law. I cannot speak to what the regulations to come would say because I haven't read what the regulations, but I know there is a problem in respect of the regulations.
So the alliance is bringing this. This is one of the things that the alliance will be putting on the table, because I would imagine there will be some sort of communication with you, with the minister and the entire ministry with these rules.
There will be a proposition. We haven't yet met with honorable new minister. She, as I speak with you, she right now is in Parliament going through the appropriation bill, and we hope that when we meet with her, we will speak, we will draw this to her attention, and have her have all the lawyers in the ministry to put this in the system so that going forward we're not going backwards, not we're going forward. Those are important words that I'm using. I think that we should be going forward. This is all in an effort to clean up the industry, to bring a new face. We now have to rebrand. We have to move forward. We can't be
I totally agree.
Right.
We do have to take a break, but when we come back, we do have some video, some still shots that we want to show the public. So a few things that happened over the last couple of weeks. So we're not really going back, but in order to move forward, we do need to reflect on what went wrong and how we can fix it. So we'll come back after the break, and we're going to share some images and some video with the public. And we encourage you to call us 228-5562 or 228-5563 when we come back. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. If you're now joining us, we are speaking with the Alliance Owners of Public Transport. With us in the studio, in another room, but he's with us, is Mr. Mark HAYNES, and Mark is the Communications Information and Marketing Officer of AOPT, as well as the chairman who's joining us by phone, Mr. RAPHAEL, and we also have via Zoom link Director of Complaints and Legal Affairs, Mr. Craig Banfield. Now, before the break, I promise you that we'll see some videos, and I'm going to ask my producer to put up a few so that we have an idea of some of the challenges faced with the, not necessarily organization, but with some of the drivers out there. And I'm going to ask him to put up a few now. We know we had, this is we live in the Black Rock area. We have a minibus in the center lane, does not intend to turn right, and he's waiting, obviously, he's next to ZR in the left lane. So obviously when the lights turn green for him to turn right, he can't move, and he's blocking up the traffic then behind him. And we see him here zooming off, going straight, and obviously the traffic lights are green for other vehicles, and he's dodging through the vehicles. Now, something like that, I urge people who's sitting in that van, people who driving behind it, is that something, Craig, that you would get a phone call for almost immediately to say, look, X, Y, and Z number plate has just done ABC?
Yeah, sometimes we do receive those calls. We are encouraging the public to go ahead and call us on our hotline so that we will be able to investigate these matters on a more consistent basis. You know, for a while, Joyanne, I had been asking, I mentioned it previously in the media, you know, a lot of these guys go before the law courts, and it has congested the court system somewhat. And I had asked for which I'm hoping now that the new minister, when we meet with her, this will be one of the things on it that we're going to put on the table for a ticketing system, similar to what we do in Canada, what's done in Canada and states, etc. And this ticketing system will have a variety of offenses or violations according to the Road Traffic Act. And by extension, these different violations would have a monetary amount attributed to it. So, for example, like what the guy just did in the video. For example, suppose that violation is $1,000 and he's reported by the police. The police would issue him a ticket, and rather than going to court to clog up the law courts to say whether you're guilty or not, you just go to the registry and you pay your $1,000 because you know that you are wrong and you have witnesses to the effect. You have video showing that you are wrong. So these are things that we need as to get things doing as new systems in place. I'm very disappointed when I see videos like this because really and truly, these are people that should know better. These are things that are passengers are sitting out inside of a van, and for them to sit down and watch this go on, I'm sure that they should be complaining. They should have said something. But however, sometimes you have drivers and operators who get violent with the same passengers for speaking up. I know an instance whereby a similar situation that happened, and she told the driver, "Look, you know what? You are wrong." He said, "Well, if you don't like it, you can get off my van." She said, "Well, put me off."
Well, I can attest to that many years ago because, we don't born with a license, and we certainly don't born with a car, especially like me, we are born poor. So it took me a while before I got a car, and I had my first daughter, and she was 3 years old, and I was working at a place called Caribbean Week back then, and she was going to school at the New Testament church next door. And I was living in Chancery Lane, so it was in number 11. And I could tell you, I would knock on the side of that van and tell that man to put me out because I have my child in my hand, and I would get out. No, he didn't get a bus fare neither because I got as far as probably to Oystons. But you could get bad feeling, and sometimes your instinct just tell you, look, get out this van. And a few times I did that. Clearly that was many years ago, Craig, so we live in different times now. So I understand what you're saying in terms of that confrontation. People back then understood, but they were still reckless. So this problem is just not now. It just in my opinion, is a little worse, or maybe it's not worse, but maybe because of social media, we see it more, and we're capturing the images more on film. Do we have more, producer? Because I really hoping we can get the one minus the colorful language that was used in the city the other day, where a van blocked the other van from passing. And when he finally got past, I believe the vehicles rubbed and there was a big altercation. Producer, do we have that one that we can show? This one clearly went viral on social media. Again, we had a few accidents. People were injured. I'm not sure, like I said, who to blame. There were those investigations I'm sure will take place. But again, it is just so important that we
Joy,
do something about it.
Sorry, Joy. And while the producers looking for those videos, I just want to say that, look, we are encouraging passengers to please call our hotline.
What's the number, Craig? Say that again, sorry.
538 3888. We want the information. We need to log this information because we are trying to have this industry cleaned up. And the more information that we can get access to, the better for us. I see that.
This is the other. This is another one. This is not the one in town, but this is the recent accident with it was two ZRs, I understand. That was one that crashed into the tree, and the other one unfortunately fell on its side. This is Wanstead a couple of weeks ago, I believe, where someone was thrown from the vehicle. Again, this is happening too often. I mean, it really is. Then this is another one. I'm not sure what this area is, but that was also on social media. I believe that both of them rubbed each other. Always in a hurry. They're always in a hurry when they're empty. No, sorry. They're dragging when they're empty because they're looking for people. And of course, when they're full now, they're trying to just get them off and get the next set of passengers. Let's take this one, another one. This is now with the fight. This one was the classic. So this individual parks alongside the road across the street, and he zooms off, allowing the other one to pass, and the other one is trying to overtake him on the inside, and they both collide. Needless to say, in true Bajan form and fashion, fight broke out. People came around with their cameras, and this is an unfortunate situation. Now, what the small van did, I mean, I was like shocked. How do you block off the man parking right across long ways across the street? I mean, for what reason? And then you have people inside of these vehicles. This is ridiculous. Here's now the fight now breaking out there in town. I mean, somebody could have been killed, you know. So I am so happy that the Alliance is coming to the public, and I know this will not be your last time. We'll be coming to the public, and it's coming to the public to say, look, we want this to be better. We want people to join us. And because again, I would hate to think that that's one of your members. And if it was one of your members, what exactly would you do if that was one of your members, Craig?
Well, I'm glad that that was not one of our members. Let me make that abundantly clear here on your program. Face it and fix it. And if they were our member, we definitely would have to speak to the owner, because you got to remember that a lot of these vans are owner owned, but not owner driven. And there's a difference between when these guys are hired by owners to operate. A lot of these owners sometimes don't even know what's going on. So that's why we need the information to bring it to the owner's attention as to, you know what, your driver's on the road doing X, Y, Z. Sometimes they don't believe you. And as such, we need the evidence to back up whether a statement from a person, a passenger that's on board, or in the video as we just saw. But Joanne, when we meet with the minister, another area that I could look to see to improve the sector besides the ticketing system and what Mark had mentioned earlier, is that we need an independent disciplinary committee. We need to have an independent disciplinary committee set up whereby it is government maybe government funded somewhat, but however it needs to be independent, where members that sit on this commission must be vetted to ensure that they don't have any affiliations with public service vehicles, their families don't own any public service vehicles, because we find that a lot of the times, believe it or not, there are a lot of what we would call high society persons who own public service vehicles, doctors, lawyers, politicians, you name it. We have a whole cross section of owners that own public service vehicles. So we need, in my opinion, an independent body that looks at these, what you just showed as these videos, and we will be able then to go ahead as an independent body and make the disciplinary what disciplinary needs, the disciplinary aspects that needs to be really done to get a lot of these guys off the road. Because when I look at those videos that you just showed, it breaks my heart. I mean, really truly, it is uncalled for. These are things that are not necessarily and can be avoided. So why take the risks? I don't understand why sometimes these guys take these risks. These are uncalled for risks, and it needs to be it needs to be corrected as soon as possible.
It's crazy. So let me get back to the chair. I think that the whole concept of the Alliance Owners Public Transport is definitely a great one, because most people, and I could compare it to Barvin, the Barbados Association of Retail and vendors, entrepreneurs and vendors. When you come as a group, you get more attention, I should say. And I'm hoping that drivers and owners are listening to the show or watching this show, because it is important for you to join an association. Now, Mark is saying he's not telling you which one, but you're here, Mark, so you might as well promote yours. Because, as Craig said, there's a lot of benefits, and there's going to be more benefits. So, Chair, what I'm asking you now is, how many people, I think Craig said about 200 and something people are members. Does this include the owners, or this is just for drivers and even the conductors? How is the membership made up?
Okay, our membership made up of persons who have a permit, those persons who are interested in the sector, and also we have started to represent drivers and conductors. We have this there are some persons who own the vehicle and also drive it. So we would have amended our constitution to allow us now to represent PSB workers. And more so, sometime during the course of this week, we will be meeting with the operators in Spikestown. We have some members out there as well, because as you know, they're expected to move over to the new terminal. We started to meet with them last week. We heard some of their concerns, and we expected to meet with them again because there is some concerns at which we will address, but we, as Mr. Haynes, our communication and information officer, will have indicated that we want a smooth move over to the new terminal, and we will expect the cooperation. But before that, we want to meet with them so that we can hear their concern. But our membership base is made out of persons who owns minibuses, ZRs, taxis, BT permit, and so on, Hackney carriage license permit. And yes, we have over 250 members. We would like to encourage more people to join us. Recently, we had some concerns in Bridgetown where a number of the taxi operators that are members of our association had some concerns because they themselves were, in their view, removed from where they usually park. And that matter has been quickly corrected. Hopefully, we should be seeing some movement in that area. We also have situations in Nelson Taxi. We have a number of members there as well too. And these members always complain to us when they have events happening in Hero Square. Maybe the last time they had the Republic celebration. And those colors were displayed. And each time that happened, and it was been happening for a number of years, those fellas have to find their way to park. So we are basically going to start discussions very shortly with the relevant ministries and so on to discuss that. One of the areas that we would have met with them and they spoke to is bathroom facility in Bridgetown. Because, in Bridgetown, we have two major taxi stands, Lower and Upper Broad Street. And these fellas are really at the mercy of the establishment, food store establishment and other establishment. And you will understand during this COVID-19, it will be very difficult for people to walk persons to use their bathroom facility. So,
well, I believe Roy, with the redevelopment, let me just stick a plug in here. So for Barbados Tourism Investment Inc., who's been doing a very good job in the city, in the transformation of the city. Some public bathrooms have been installed in the Market Village, as well as the Golden Square, Freedom Park. They're about to build some more bathroom facilities. There are only 2 there right now, but the construction of the 4 will start soon. And the discussion about having public facilities that are managed by persons. So every time you use the bathroom, it will then be monitored by an environmental technician, if I want for a better word. I'm just thinking that that's probably the title we'll give them because they do look after the environment. And still want to take the opportunity to commend those who are actually looking after the bathrooms on a daily basis in the village market. It's not an easy job having to go into a bathroom every time someone uses it in a public space. And I believe that will be coming soon as well. But before you move on, when you said about your members, you said it was drivers. It wasn't drivers, it was owners, operators. When we come back, I just want you to clarify again, because we have to take a break, if the drivers and the conductors can also become members of the association. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We are speaking with the Association of the Alliance Owners of Transportation. And I probably did not get that correct, but I repeat that, the Alliance Association of Public Transport. We were speaking with some of the members. Before the break, we were speaking to Mr. Roy RAPHAEL, and I was talking about the membership. And I believe Mr. Haynes also wants to weigh in on that, because I want the public to know that this is the start of a fresh start. I would like to call it that. A fresh start. You have a new minister, might I add, female. And for those of you who may not know, that MTW has never had a female minister. This is the first. So I'm hoping that with that in mind, possibly we may see some changes, not saying that other people did not do a good job, but I'm hoping that she can build on what was already there, whether it be this government or previous administrations. But the Alliance is here today to start this discussion with Face It and Fix It just before they have a meeting with the minister, because I believe that one is scheduled for them. And we are looking for a way to bring some of these problems under control. But as I asked, do we have any, should I say, or the people, I should say, the operators, apart from the operators, the drivers and the conductors, can they be members?
Okay, so what happened is when the association first started, we basically concentrated on owners, but we recognized that there were persons who drive their vehicles, there were owner-driven vehicles out there. And over time, we were on a number of complaints from independent drivers and conductors who came to the association seeking for us to represent them. And what we did is that we amended our constitution to give representation to the drivers and conductors, the PSC operators out there, and we will encourage them. We will start to do training and so on for them, hoping that that will be done very shortly. But we encourage them. We have meetings with them from time to time. I know there were a driver and conductor of PSP operator organization some time ago. I'm not sure if it's still in existence. But the number of operators who came to us, and we decided that we are one family, one goal, and we set up area in which we can assist them. But
so the short answer then is yes.
Yes,
right. I think that's fantastic. Go ahead, and I think Mark has something to say too as well.
Right. Just before Mark comes in, I just want to say that we spend a lot of emphasis and time and so on the minibuses and ZR's operators. As I said to you earlier, I have responsibility for the taxis. And the taxis as well, we get a lot of complaints from them from time to time, from persons from time to time, in terms of we want to educate the taxi operators to let them know of their deportment, how they should dress. We're going to be conducting training for our members very shortly. I know the COVID-19 team have started some training, which probably a 2-day training for those persons. But we want to take it even further. We have been in discussion with Mark Griffith to work with us through the Ministry of Education to create a program where persons can benefit from. But as you know, the question of membership and person joining an organization is important, right? Because as you know, well, you might be well aware that we have started discussions with the taxi operators out of Bridgetown, and especially those persons who operate in front of Jordan Supermarket. We should see some improvement there. The police continue to complain about those guys out there blocking the area, especially on Friday nights, along with the PSVs and so on. So we should be seeing some improvement there very shortly, because most of those guys opted to join the association or another association called the Barbados Taxi Alliance.
Okay. So let me just sort of pull some things together before we move on. So far, We have covered the fact that you can join, which is the drivers, owners, conductors. You can join the association. The benefits then of joining the association, one, as Mr. Banfield said earlier, we're looking at insurance, representation, because there's power in numbers. So in order for them to have, I would just say, a better way and a better quality of life in terms of operating, it's always good to do it with an association. We talked about the Give Back program. We talked about giving owners the assistance, and we made reference to the unfortunate incident that occurred where an owner, I'm not sure if he was an owner, could correct me please, operator, lost his life. Say again?
Driver, he was a driver.
He was a driver, lost his life, and being a part of an organization would give you these types of benefits and more like a safety net. And I believe that's where we're heading in terms of assisting government as well when they have their rules and regulations, and for them to communicate with the Alliance. Now, I understand it is more than one organization. I am not well aware of who else is out there and what they're offering. But let me just ask Mark this question before he weighs in. Mark, when you're part of an organization and you're a taxi driver, can it be that you would maybe do a deal with a hotel on their behalf so that they can have parking spaces as you did with BTI in the markets? Because again, with your intervention, the Alliance, it led to some secured parking spots in Fairchild Street Market to alleviate some of the congestion. So I want to thank you too for bringing that to the attention of the BTI and all of the other stakeholders. Is that something that the taxi drivers can look forward to if they join the association, and you make some representation for them at, say, hotels, so that they can have a spot in these other places to generate some money?
Important question, Joyanne. First of all, let me pull a plug for the Alliance on Public Transport at this point. Notwithstanding, I would have said earlier that I am not here to tell persons in this organization to join. Suffice it to say that if you are with the Alliance Owners of Public Transport, you are in good hands. We have a package. We have a comprehensive package. A package which fits you, a package which helps you. So it's imperative that you look, when you are considering joining an organization, join the Alliance Owners of Public Transport. But let me get on to this point. We are coming to the question of, we are taking the question of training very seriously. Against this backdrop, Mr. Mar R. Griffith, who is the Deputy Chair of the Alliance Owners of Public Transport, he is our Special Assignments Officer, whose remit it is to work with Dr. Archer, the Chief Education Officer, Dr. I forgot her surname, excuse me, but it's the Chief Education Officer. We had a meeting with her over 2 weeks ago, and we have commissioned that Mark works closely with the ministry with a view to putting together a curriculum so that the guys can be properly trained, because we think that training is paramount. Training is critical going forward. I keep on using this going forward. Training is a must, it is an imperative. And we are looking at training, and we believe that once we train the good gentlemen and ladies in the system, that this will be down to the benefit of the organization, and this will help market and help promote not only the organizations but promote themselves. And it also will assist with some of the behavior that is reprehensible out there in the public domain, which we're not happy with. But get on to another point I wish to make here. We are going in our organization, we have a legal clinic set up. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I think, are the 2 days where operators or persons in the system who wish to have legal matters addressed can come, sit down with all legal team, and they can have all this rectified. So we are proactive. We are not myopic in our disposition. We are saying that we are an organization that looks forward to doing things for the better, doing this for the better of the nation, because we contribute to Barbados' GDP. But we want our workers to be properly represented so that when they go before the law, I'm not a lawyer yet, at least, or not cry guys, but I'm saying to you that many times some of our guys go to the courts and they are ignorant of the law. Now, if they were to come to our legal clinic, this provides an opportunity for them to engage with our attorneys who will advise them correctly and appropriately what the law states and what it doesn't state, so that they will not be in good standing, that they will have good legal representation. So this is an organization that is not just not myopic. It is forward thinking. It is looking forward to improving the transportation system. I think it can be improved, and by doing this, we can get those few persons who are intent on
Okay.
behaving badly out of the system.
Well, I'll tell
But
you
with
something,
education,
Mark, sorry, the thing, some people, we got to take some calls, some people trying to get through to speak with you, but I would like them not to want legal assistance too regular, because that means then that they're breaking the law. But we'll take this call, let's listen to this caller. 1 second. Good morning, Face It and Fix It, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to make a suggestion. I know that there are quite a few people who drive bus, who conduct bus and all that, taxis, whatever. My suggestion is you should put in a certain amount of hours annually to sit in class. In other words, you run a classroom for 5 hours a day, 5 hours a day, 5 weeks, or whatever, but you have teachers there at all times, so that when you have your class and you're teaching a certain subject, those people would go into that one, and then the others who are coming behind, you can have a revise, or I don't know if you call it a revise, it could be a repeat, sorry, not a revise, a repeat, so that everybody gets the same training over a certain time, but you must put in your hours so that you would have taxi drivers as well as minibus drivers, as many, when you have a class, then you do the 5-day-a-week things, starting with somebody probably who works at transport board and has a good knowledge. I am a transport board worker for years. I started in 1955, so you would get an idea, and I was 18 then, so you would know what my age is now. So I am saying there are a lot of transport workers that know about what guys on the road need to know now, so you can have them probably on a 5-day-a-week or whatever, but you must put in a certain amount of hours training before you can go on the bus, number one, and then you, from year to year, you can do revision.
Sounds like a very good idea. Your thoughts, gentlemen?
I'm
Any
sorry?
of you? An excellent idea. I was going to get some feedback from the members. Anyone wants to weigh in on that suggestion? Roy?
I can say that excellent idea, and we looked at it. We understand that the public service vehicle workers out there, some of them start to work from 5 o'clock and probably with 2 shifts, some might finish at 12 o'clock. And we have to create avenues and areas in which those fellas, those operators, the ones that in the service right now can attend the training program, and those persons who are coming that are now going into the system, we have to set up areas for them to be trained similar to what Transport Board is doing. And we looked at it. Hopefully, after the discussion, we are continuing discussion with the Ministry of Education, the Transport Board. I know there were similar program to this at the Barbados Community College. It was not compulsory, so therefore some people come to this Sunday and some persons miss out the next 2 Sundays and come back again. So we want to make sure that it is written in law and that it is compulsory that all public service vehicle operators, drivers, conductors, taxi operators should be trained. And if you're already in the system, you will have to do some number of time in training. You have 2 years to do it before you can renew your permit. This if you are new, if you are a regular driver, so we want to give you enough time. So every 2 years, or so, or every year, every 2 years, I would say, you should able to do a refresher program to allow you to renew your driver's license.
Let me ask you this, Roy. What about training in basic hygiene? And I mean that in a serious way. We've always heard complaints about, which also brings you back to the whole confusion with the uniforms. Where are we with the uniforms when we had a big discussion about having to wear uniforms and there was some pushback? Where are we now? And how can we help with the hygiene aspect of things? Because I don't think it's fair for people to be getting ready for work and putting on their nice clothes and you know, even though we have COVID and people are wearing masks, sometimes that doesn't even help the situation. So what's going on with that?
Right, Joy, I don't think we get a lot of complaints related to the hygiene. I mean, in terms of persons complaining to us about the PSC workers. And so, I mean, yes, it's part of the component that we have looked at in terms of, you know, best practice. We also looked at car care, which is important. We also looked at first aid because, you know, one time you saw that we heard about a gentleman was on his way to work, and when he got there to the street, the back of the police station, he started to get himself into difficulties. And the first respondent basically is a conductor or driver. I had a situation where one of my vehicles was traveling from Sugar Hill to Bridgetown, and one Lexi driver got into difficulty. So we have placed that into the component of training. So at least the driver and the conductor who are first responders before the ambulance get there to have a basic idea of what they can do in the event where someone from themselves in difficulties or even from themselves too.
Okay, we got to take a commercial break right here, but when we come back, we still want to hear about those uniforms. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We are speaking with the Alliance Owners of Public Transport. In particular, Mr. Roy RAPHAEL is here, the chairman, joining us. Mr. Craig Banfield is also with us, Director of Complaints and Legal Affairs. And Mr. Mark Haynes, Communications, Information and Marketing Officer. Before the break, I asked a question, and I'm just curious, whatever happened to the whole uniform concept? People complying, is that still a rule?
I will allow Mr. Banfield to answer that question. That falls under his part.
Go ahead, Craig.
Sorry, John. Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you
So
repeat,
the
please?
uniforms, I want to know if it's still a rule. Where are we with the uniforms? A few years back, there was some pushback about the whole concept of wearing uniforms. So where are we with that? Driver and conductor.
Yeah, currently we are at the stage where I would say drivers more adhere rather than conductors. There are some instances of complaints that conductors wear whatever they want, different color shirts, slippers, short pants, whatever you name it, they wear. But what we have found is that a lot of these conductors are not legal. So sometimes the driver might be looking for a conductor and just pick somebody up off the street. One of their friends say, look, come and conduct for the day.
What do you mean not
so
legal? Do they have to go through, what is it you have to go through to become a conductor for it to be legal?
Well, you have to get to pay the relevant fee, Ministry MTW, in order to get a conductor badge.
Oh,
So
okay.
from that there, then you're considered a legal conductor. So sometimes a lot of these guys are not really interested in conducting on a regular basis. They just want some money. And so sometimes they might just hop on the van and not really bother about a license, not about the uniform. So I tend to find, and I've been observing it too as I drive around, I tend to see most drivers tend to have on the right uniform. But if it was me personally, I would say the conductors is a little bit that you have to look to crack down on in terms of following.
So that's one of the
right
things that proposals, I would imagine you're coming to the government as well, because remember the whole exercise is, this is the start of making this better. So one of the suggestions would be to regularize and put into some sort of legislation that the driver has to be trained, conductor has to be trained, they have to go through the right procedures, or can the police do anything? I mean, we would want the police, as the minister said in the Wells of Parliament, that the legislation will finally have some teeth. And I just hope that they're not rubber teeth. I would like them to be sharp, pit bull-like teeth, so that when you do something, you're reprimanded for it. You communicate with the drivers, of course, and the owners about the rules. I mean, that's only fair. You got to educate people first. Once you educate them and then they break the rules, and you give them a little chance here and there, but there are some people who I can tell you, I understand, that have been to court and about 30 charges, all traffic, still got a license, still driving a van. So, and the police would have done and given them all the tickets in the world. And the system, unfortunately, makes them pay a fine. The next day they're back on the van doing the same thing. So are we looking at legislation that would really sink some serious teeth into practices like that?
Well, that's why, Joanne, we're actually waiting to have a meeting with the minister. We have, as an association, a lot of our own personal ways that we figure, if it is legislatively done, that it will help the system. Of course, government is coming with the Barbados mass transit regulations that's coming on board. We haven't seen it privy to, or had information privy to see exactly the amount of teeth that is going to be coming in with the violations that will occur. But we are hoping that together we can come to a consensus as it relates to how best to get this sector to perform the way it needs to perform, or has been lacking in performance. And I believe, as you mentioned earlier, that the fact that the Ministry of Transport Work has their first female minister on board, I believe there might be a little twist to what has normally been happening before. So I'm looking forward to meeting with her. I'm looking forward to seeing what the mass transit has to offer. And as such, our organization, like I said, we also have our own ideas. And we hope that the new minister will take us seriously in terms of giving us a rightful ear. As you said, a meeting is scheduled in the not too coming future. And we're really looking forward to this meeting to see how we can get through legislative ways this sector in a proper and functioning environment and sector basically going forward.
All right. I want to play a video quickly about spikes down and the changes that will be coming into effect, I think, by tomorrow, the 1st of March. And of course, when we end the show, we want to make sure that we end it with all of the good things that you are doing. And I'm a fan now of this organization because I think it's important for people to join. But I'm going to ask the producer to show that video of Spikes Down. We had some feedback from the people of Spikes Down as it relates to public transport, not parking on the streets, but parking inside of the terminal. So I'll ask
all of the work which we expected to have been completed was not really completed because of the rains. We anticipate that will be done tomorrow afternoon, providing the weather remains as good as it ought to be. There are several reasons actually that we need to move the PSVs off the Spikes Down bus route. One is for the safety of the passengers. 2 is for the safety of those people who actually use the road. 3, we need to ensure that the vehicles are sanitized. And 4, we need to make sure that we comply with the laws as it relates to PSVs using the terminal.
I know, Roy, we spoke about this morning, and I know that you'll be meeting with some other people during the course of the week on this matter. So I wouldn't expect you to dive in too deep. But one of the things that she said resonated with me, and that is sanitizing the buses on every trip. So when you have buses not going into the Constitution River Terminal because either I don't know what's happening there, we need to investigate. If it closes too early, if it's too dark, why people don't catch a bus in the Constitution River Terminal after 6. And if they're not catching the bus in the terminal and they're required to sanitize going into the terminal before they leave, are they sanitizing wherever they turn around? That's one question. Roy or Mark, would you want to touch base on that as well as Speightstown?
Just before Mark answers the question, I'm glad you raised the issue though, because one, we would have visited, myself and Mark and Mr. Banfield would have taken a tour to Speightstown last year. When we first heard about the PSC operators to move over to the Speightstown terminal, and we welcome the idea of them moving over. As I said earlier to you this morning, that we have some concerns that we want to meet with the relevant authority first. We would have met with the operators on Monday while we were in Speightstown. And as I said, we have some concerns which we wish to address. The idea of moving to Speightstown is great. We welcome it, but we will address after meeting with the operators sometime during the course of this week. We will get back to you and the Transport Authority about our discussion. Now, I want to quickly, before Mark goes there, I want to talk to Warren's Hub. The Warren's Hub. You know, it's something that we looked at, and Mr. Banfield will tell you that we continue to get a number of complaints against public service vehicle operators who operate within that catchment area, the Warren's area, because you know there's a health clinic there, right? And then anytime you go there, you can see operators just crossing the road, obstructing traffic, trying to assist person in their vehicle, right, so that they can get a full load into Bridgetown. Obviously, some time ago, we would have gotten some calls, some complaints from the Queen Elizabeth Hospital years ago, where they did complain about the low horn and the horns and the PSC operators. Some of them would have made a shortcut by driving along the hospital road. That has been alleviated. So therefore, you find that they were not allowed there because their route was adjusted to allow them not to pass in front of the hospital unless they have an emergency. Similarly, what we are saying is that we are going to be speaking to the ministry, the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Transport. One of the proposals is to look at hubs, right? And one of the hubs would be Warren's. Warren's is fastly becoming a town. And there's a number of operators who either terminate or drive through Warren's. There's no bathroom facility. There's no hand sanitizing areas that they can. There's no lunchroom. There's no cooling off area that you guys can sit down and relax for about a few minutes and then continue on their route. So I'm saying that one of the things like that is what we want to. Not only Warren's, but we also identify 6 roads. 6 roads is also a hub. Mm-hmm. Right?
But when you say a hub, are these legal hubs? Because I can tell you, and we spoke about this, and I'm actually going to refer to it now, 2020, I think it was, the Probin Street was not a legal setup, and they've gone back now to the Van Stand in the Constitution River, and that was there for 30 years. So when you say hub, because we have a WhatsApper here weighing in, I guess we could put it up on the screen, basically saying that Warren's is already congested. If you put a hub, it will make it even more confusing. So we have to find a way to live together and to create some sort of balance. So when you say hub, you mean for the Transport Authority to make it an official terminal?
Right. Now, I was referring to remove the right now is a hub on the official hub, where the operators come there and they remain stationary at the bus stop, right, to pick up passengers coming from the area of the Warrens. What we're saying is that you can have an official your official hub or what we call a mini terminal, and you could identify the area not too far
Off
from
the street, exactly. No,
Right.
I'm with you on that one. Something
Right.
that has more structure to it. See, that's the problem. When guys who own these and operate these vehicles start to gather in a space, all of a sudden everybody thinks that that is a terminal, and it is not.
Right.
And so you should really would want to intervene quickly, as you said, and pick up your suggestion where you're saying, look, hey, let's do this better. Let's find a spot in the area that we can make it into an official small terminal in Warrens, because Warrens has a lot of activity, a lot. And I believe that something like that can work. But I just want to get back to the question of sanitizing the vehicles. If it is that you cannot go into the terminal after a certain time, how are these vehicles being sanitized? And I mean, we're in a COVID environment still. We're probably going to be here for a long time. What are we going to do about that? And
well,
why is the
after-
terminal closed at a certain time?
Right. So we learned that the terminal are closed between 7 and 8 o'clock. This is the CRT. But
Right, the Constitution
other
River Terminal.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. The other terminal, which is Cheapside, because they are distant and close to the transport board, those workers work very late, so you can get your vehicles sanitized there. But our concern basically is the CRT after 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. You'll find that no one goes into the terminal after 7 o'clock. Obviously.
Why? Why is that?
Well, because people complain of being attacked, harassed, right? And some persons, particularly women, are afraid to walk in the area because the area was not well lit. What happened is that we met with the last minister, the past minister, Honorable Ian Edger, and some suggestions came up, which we are hoping now to put the new minister, because a lot of our operators, we have closely to about 40 to 45 operators who work after 6 o'clock at night. And some of these operators only work between the hours of 12 o'clock and 12. We got some that just work from 12 to 12 only. And some of the routes that you will find these operators operating on are routes like 3D, Silver Sand, right? Silver Hill, Sugar Hill. So when these operators find that they are locked out or closed, the terminal has been closed for that day, then they find themselves trying to park or trying to get some commuters in front of the Fairchild Street terminal. And
Which then leads now to more congestion again.
Right, a lot of congestion there. Transport board buses can't come out. Right, the minibuses, the taxis, everybody, especially on Fridays. And now that the country have reopened, we expect to have more congestion. So we want organized structure, right? And we have already have a proposal we will have put to the former minister, and we're going to try doing so with the new minister, maybe meet with her.
Well, we have a WhatsApp here, and if I can have it blown up a little bit more, I might be able to read it out, but I'm sure viewers can see it. But, well, they're basically saying that how can you get the hubs to run properly when you can't even get your people to behave properly. So this is coming in from the public, some of the thoughts that they were sharing with us. But the Constitution River Terminal, though, I mean, I must say, whatever suggestions, I'm not sure what they are, because I don't want to run out of time and not cover one or two other things. But I'm hoping that they will be shared eventually. So you want to answer this question, how will your organization run properly? And when we come back, I'm going to get you to answer that question, because we do have to take a quick break. So when you think about it, answer it when we come back after the break. welcome back to Face It and Fix It. So, Roy, want to answer that question. People would like to know, person would like to know. We got a lot of comments, and I can tell you some of them obviously would not be that great because, as we said, we know what the problems are, and we're hoping to get them fixed. How are you going to manage this? They're saying if you're not being able to manage the very people that you have. You want to clarify that to let them know not all of them are your members, but we don't know the difference, you see?
Yeah, I think I will allow Mark Haynes to answer that because he's really our information officer. I could probably ask him to answer that question.
Hi, Mark. Yes. What are you going to do?
Dorian, thanks for the question. I want to zero in on two things. One, deal with the question membership. It comes back to my point that I think it's imperative going forward. We are looking forward to meeting with the Honorable Minister when she avails herself or when the opportunity arises. I think as we move forward, it is imperative that we put on the table that for persons to work in the PSB sector, that there should be a member of an organization. In this vein, when things occur, we will be better able to manage them, our overall membership, or whichever other organization engages people. You'll be able to have a profile on your people. Actually, we have some of the vehicles have GPS on them. We can track the vehicles down. We can see any infractions that the guys are committing. And if there are any infractions, we can deal with those matters internally. Now, it is imperative that you join an organization. When you join an organization, you are in a structure. When you are in a structure, that provides an opportunity to be properly represented, so that when you have problems, you come to the organization, then the organization works with government or negotiates with government with a view to rectifying what the problems are. Doing it on your own is a waste of precious time. I think now going forward, it is imperative that all PSB workers should join an organization to be properly represented.
But Mark, not crossing, but you seem to be properly represented, yes, but do you also, would you also consider making sure they have some sort of certification? For example, I think we need to treat them like how we treat an electrician. If you don't have a certificate dealing with electricity, then you can't deal with electricity. So if you don't have a certificate to drive people and you have passed your courses, then you should not have permission to carry human beings from point A to B. I think that's what it should be.
I get with that in part before that comes on the training. That's what I was making the point earlier, Jorian.
You got to pass the training.
Training is paramount. Now, Mr. Mar Griffith, our deputy chair, he is our special assignments officer whose remit it is to work with the Ministry of Education. Dr. Bradshaw and us had a meeting over 2 weeks ago, and we are agreed on this. So Mark himself is an educator. He is looking to further reform and tweak the training sessions and so on for these guys, because we see this as important going forward. We do not want people running about with little chickens with their neck off their head. We don't want that kind of behavior at all. We are not about that. We are here about proper representation and behavior. This is crucial. It's not like pressing a button and bad behavior goes. But as we put these requisite things in place, I'm optimistic that we are going to see improvement in Barbados' landscape when it comes to public transportation. That is why it is imperative that the Barbados government sits down, meets with the organization and discusses. Let's have a national conversation in respect of transportation. I've been calling for this in the press. I use this meeting to call again on the government to have a discussion with us. We have a number of burning issues. Getting back to the issue of the vans being sanitized who are running out of the CRT. Now, we have no control over that. That is a problem which the government will have to deal with in terms of having stations set up outside where the vans can pass through. I mean, they can go to the rear, they can go to the cheap side, and they can have the vans sanitized after they have disembarked the passengers. Now we were so proactive that we worked with the Barbados Line of Power, and we got some dispensers to have them affixed in the minibuses. We now see we now found out a way how they can be fitted in the ZRs, so that when the commuters get on the vehicles, they can hand sanitize. This will help mitigate against the spread of COVID-19, so that when each commuter gets in the vehicle, he or she sanitizes his or her hands. Now, on the van itself, we are encouraging the vans, those who are running out of the system, to submit themselves to the terminals to be sanitized. But we don't have immediate control over all those other people who incidentally may not be our members. So this is something I want to. So I will just respond to your question that you asked earlier, because you were very strong on that. It's a very pertinent point. I take the point. I take the criticism. I take the point.
Well,
that is imperative. That
I want you to take the point of some of our viewers and listeners. If you see me squinting a little bit because I'm looking at a screen and I don't have my glasses on, but they wanted to know if can't all of them have GPS and cameras to help cut down on some of this behavior. There are other people asking, saying, things that they're reckless, and some of the most reckless people are ZR van drivers, that's what people are saying. There's also something I want to address. You pay your $3.50 and you need, okay, I can see it much better. Let me finish this here. You pay your $3.50, but I am the only buddy in the van. But you don't want to carry me up the road. You want to put me off here, short there, for me to walk the rest of the way because you want to turn around the van to pick up more people. What can I do about that? And that has been happening to regular where they do not complete their routes. And nobody knows this. So if you've been given a route, you must stay en route and you must complete your route. What are we doing? What can the Alliance bring to the table to help fix this problem?
Let me address that, because sometimes we get complaints. We get 1 or 2 complaints related to that, but it's not. Basically, you will find that on 1 or 2 routes, but it's not across the board. But it's against the law, because the law gives you have to complete your route, the full route. So if you go into one state, you must go to the turnaround point. If that happens, what we normally do is that we will call the owner and inquire and let the owner know what have happened, the complaint. And most of the time, those matters are resolved. Those persons might just want
Roy, you were speaking about your members, saying that doesn't happen often with your members.
Right.
So, but if it's not your member that's happening, you may not be aware, or you get all of the complaints.
Right. Well, whatever complaints we get, and me, Craig, can answer that, we normally will check to see if it's our members or not. But if it's not our members, then we will pass the information to the Transport Authority. Now, let me quickly say how this is done. You call 538-3888, you make a complaint. You can either decide to give your name or not, because all complaints are treated seriously. So you call the department, we take your complaint, we ask you if you want to give your name. If you don't want to do so, we will still contact the owner. Once it's a matter, because sometimes people send videos as relate to the complaint. Some persons may want to take the matter further, others might just want the person warned. But all complaints we investigate. There are 2 investigators that we have, that was former police officers, that we will pass the complaints to them. If they want further clarification, they will contact the person. They will also take statements if possible. And if it's a matter for the police, then we'll pass on to police or the Transport Authority. And that's as far as we can go, because we are not regulators. We are basically providers, and we can only provide information, videos, and so to the relevant authorities so that they can deal with it accordingly.
Okay, well, I do appreciate that, because as I said, When you said that you don't get a lot of complaints, Craig, do you get all complaints and then you just check to see if you're your members or not? Everything comes your way, majority of them?
Yeah, majority of them come my way. I get complaints
You
from
sit on the board,
persons who
right,
are-
of Transport Authority as well? So you would
Yes, I
hear
do.
their feedback? No, what I'm saying is that at least you were able to communicate what's happening on your side. They can communicate on their side, and then everything can be brought back to people like Mark and Roy. Well, that's important to have you sitting on that
Yes.
board.
Yes, it's important because sometimes I take the complaints to the Transport Authority when we have our board meetings. Like Roy said, we have 2 investigators that were ex-police who investigate. As such, I want to go back to the question you asked about GPS and cameras, which one the persons wrote in. We are encouraging all public service vehicle operators to have GPS as well as cameras on board. I think from an insurance perspective, when you for accidents and that you can be able to see what's going on from passengers complaining that things happen while they're getting on or getting off the van. I think cameras are very vital and very important. I believe that the mass transit legislation that is coming will have those included inside there because I think the government has also looked at those measures too as well. I think that it's important and vital to see what's going on and off the van. I think that we have been having discussions as an association with on track in terms of the GPS and cameras, and we're hoping that I think we're partnered with them. I think Roy can correct me. I think we have actually partnered with them to get this initiative out on the public service vehicle because I think that is very vital and to have those on board. From the GPS point of view of tracking speed, that is something that On Track has told us that we'll be able to track speed. So in case persons are complaining that the vehicle is driving too fast and reckless, we'll be able to, through On Track, we'll be able to see whether that is true or not. So from a point of view of belief, not only being reported from passengers or commuters, but also from a perspective of our reporting, accurate reporting, which is what we want to gather at our association, Lions Owners of Public Transport.
Okay, we're going to be back after the break, and we're going to wrap up and get some final comments. We'll be back. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. During the break, a lady asked she has a complaint, so she wants to know, how do I put in my complaint? Craig, I will let you repeat that number again for us so that the public, if they have concerns, what's the number?
538-3888. 538-3888. That's our hotline, complaints hotline. You can call in with complaints. Go ahead. What's
the process, Craig? I call you, I give you the complaint. What do you say to me? Do you get back to me? Do you put me on to someone else?
What we do is we take information from the person that's calling in. And from the information that we get, we write down on a log. We write the information in a log. Sometimes we ask the person if they want to make a formal complaint, they can come and sign that is their statement that they're making. They can also, if they don't want to do that, they can also contact the Transport Authority, where you can also lodge complaints with them too as well. But of course, they will also like you to go in and sign their documentation too as well. The problem is that a lot of commuters do not like to sign the complaints. They like to call in and make complaints, but when it comes time to actually putting their signature on, I think they think there might be a retribution, or they don't want to be involved. They don't want to have to go to law courts in the event that it goes to that level. But there are one, like a guy called me on Sunday, and he was adamant that no matter what, he wants to put his name down. He wants to sign the documentation to the effect, because he wants to ensure that a lot of these operators and drivers get complaints, but nobody follows through. And so they can do one thing to one person, and the next day, they depend on the mood that they're in, they do something else to the other person, and they continue on this trend. So by complaints, we encourage people to come in and to actually put their signature on their actual statement that they made, so that from there we have concrete evidence going forward. And what we tend to do, we tend to contact the owners of the vehicles, especially those who are not our members, because obviously our members, we know who they are, and we have a good relationship with them. But those persons who are not members of our association, we still go ahead and contact the owner and let them know, well, look, our complaints department got this about your particular vehicle at this particular time, this particular location. And as such, it is up to them then to decide whether they're going to carry through with the complaint, or what retribution they're going to do with their driver or not. We have no authority over them and what their decisions that they make. However, it's always better to go with Transport Authority, and also fill out the statement there and sign it.
I think what I'm gathering from a lot of this, even listening to the minister and people with the feedback with this section, is that no one really has any authority. If you understand what I mean, things are happening. We got regulations, but it's still happening and happening. So when I made my own calls in the inside, it's not for us to do. And then this person said, well, then for us to do. And then, or check with the police and check with this buddy. So I think what the minister was saying, that finally they're going to pull this together, because it needs to be pulled together properly. Right. This WhatsApper says, does something actually happen when citizens make a complaint, though? As Joanne said, we have operators with a lot of charges, yet still driving. 1 minute, 30 seconds. We got no much time. Respond.
Well, let me give 5 seconds of that. I know of one operator that has over 100 and something convictions, but he's still operating. So I mean, I agree with you, Joanne. All of these things have to be tied together, and everybody has to work equally to get the system working properly. That's my personal take on it. Mm-hmm. I let Mark and them, Mark Roy, give their take.
From my end, sorry, Joanne.
Go ahead. 1 minute.
So, right. So I want to say to the callers who call in now, right, to let them know that the complaint officer will be available after 12 o'clock. Because a number of calls came through saying we have announced the number. And what we will do is to take the complaint and have the matter dealt with quickly. Thank you.
Mark, 1 minute.
Yes, Joanne, we have concentrated on the ZRs for the whole morning. We haven't touched a lot on the taxis. The taximen in the terminal Fraser Street, you were instrumental in trying to get that matter resolved. We thank you for that. We are here to represent the taxi fraternity, and those guys need to earn a living as well. So all that has to be done for them. We hope that the government, everybody moves with alacrity to ensure that the requisite spaces are had so that men can work, earn their money, and they pay tax like anybody else. We can turn around this industry. This industry is an important industry. I report confidence that once we have the training in place, we can see a change, a turnaround in this PSV industry. I am happy to be with this organization which represents the taxis, the ZRs, and or whomever. I'm saying to you that we are working with government. Government should work with us by extension, and we can turn this thing around. We can change this whole face. We can rebrand. We can rebuild. We can start afresh, and we can get going with a bang. The PSV fraternity contributes to Barbados' GDP. It is an important sector which cannot be forgotten, and we have to move forward and do everything with alacrity and ensure that we do everything that we done to the benefit of all the workers in the sector. The taxis are important. They have their place, they have concerns. We are meeting with them very shortly again, and we hope to be able to put forward our problems to the new minister. We wish her well as she takes up office, and we are looking forward to negotiating with the government of Barbados with a view to ensuring that the PSB sector remains a vital sector which should be just as important as any other sector. And we're here to stay, we're here to represent. Come on board with the Alliance on the Public Transport. We have a full package. So I urge all of you, please affiliate yourself, align yourself with the Alliance on the Public Transport, which will represent you.
I certainly would want to encourage all those who may be listening and know PSV, drivers, owners, if you're not part of an organization, be a part of this organization. But from our end, as the public, what we see, we don't like, and I believe we look forward to these changes. I believe it's the beginning. I have full confidence in Minister Bradshaw, I truly do. But again, she can't do it alone. She needs organizations such as yours. We need participation from the commuters, participation from the owners. Owners, you must set some sort of standard before you hire somebody. And you just don't give any and everybody your keys and sit here, drive this. And drivers, you do not just pick up anybody off the street and just say, here, take up my money for me. There must be some standards that we have to set and some sort of criteria to get a job. Every job in this country that I know, every organization sets standards, whether it be qualifications or even if you don't have the piece of paper, at least a personality, something. This industry is the only industry that you don't have to have nothing in order to be in it, and that has to change. Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for your presence here this morning. It is the beginning, I believe, of things to come in a better way for the public transport section. So we know we didn't get to cover everything, but hopefully in another couple of weeks, I believe the minister will be on this program. She has expressed an interest. She is aware that the Alliance would be on this morning, and she said that she will respond, and she just wants to make sure that she familiarizes herself as a new minister with the regulations. And I also want to say that the PS of this ministry also is a powerhouse, in my opinion. You do have a very good PS, so I look forward to all of these changes. So I want to thank everybody, of course, for participating, and thanking the public as well for your calls and for your participation via WhatsApp and Facebook. We'll join you again on Friday. And again, we're not on Thursdays, it's Mondays and Fridays from now on. Until then, God bless. See you then.